Thanks for tuning into the Hidden Tracks podcast. You can find us wherever you find podcasts or listen to music. When you have an opportunity, please give us a 5-star review, write a little note, tell us how we're doing. We really appreciate it. It helps us keep this thing going. If you want to reach out to us, you can find us at Facebook at Hidden Tracks. Instagram is at HiddenTracks99, and if you'd like to send in submissions or talk to us or give us any feedback about what we're doing, our email is myhiddentracks99@gmail.com. Thank you so much again for tuning in, and I hope you enjoy the show. What's up, everybody? Another week, another edition of the show. This week I had David Jarnstrom from a multitude of bands. We're going to focus a little bit on an awesome band. It's kind of how, regardless of what people think, it's a super group. I don't give a fuck what anybody says. If you don't know the bands, it's a super group from all the members that are in the band. But David has had quite the illustrious career through many different people he's played with, many different projects that he's done. And I'll be perfectly honest, we've been talking for over a half an hour prior to us hitting record. So we already have a wealth of knowledge, and our text messages and shit that was happening last week and this week. I think we're pretty much comfortable now with each other to say whatever we want to say here. So first and foremost, David, welcome to the show. Pleasure to have you.
Man, thank you so much, Shane. This is truly awesome. I'm so stoked.
So, like I said, I mean, your career, we're going to get through a lot of it today. So, for those of you, just look at the time, because I'm thinking this is going to be a longer episode. So, if we have to break it down, we'll break it down. But there's so much to talk about. Why don't we talk about the band first off that I mentioned, which was Rad Owl, and if you just give like a quick button up version of like how Rad Owl became to be what it is?
Yeah, my gosh, button up version. It's hard. It all kind of like, um, and we were talking a little bit about my early years in music, and this band kind of uh, even predates that stuff that I was talking about in a weird way. But so I'll try to do it as quickly as I can. But basically, it's now it's three-fourths of us all grew up together. When the band started in like 2017 ish, it was all four of us were old friends that had grown up in the same town. I'm from a little town in Minnesota called Mankato. It's like a college town, about 50,000 people. That's 90 minutes south of Minneapolis, where I've lived for the last like 25 years or so. And we all grew up in that town, grew up kind of learning how to play instruments together, going to shows together, learning about, first it was metal and then it was punk rock and hardcore and all that stuff, and kind of playing in our first bands together. And Rad Owl was kind of like a, I guess, almost like maybe like a midlife crisis type of a thing, where we'd all gone on to do a bunch of different bands, and sometimes a couple of us would be in those bands together, but all four of us were not all in the same band together. And something about the timing, we'd kind of been threatening to just get together and jam, just for fun, just to hang out, as a reason to hang out, at that time, again, around 2017. And so we did that, and just like once a month we were doing that, just jamming covers of stuff that we all grew up loving as kids, stuff like Descendants and All, and Big Drill Car and Doughboys and Sam I Am, and
Speaking my language.
Yeah, just like a lot of that melodic post-hardcore pop punk type stuff. And we just hadn't done that sort of thing in a long time in our own separate musical endeavors. I was playing in kind of like a post-punk shoegaze band, and our bass player was in kind of like a Britpop type band, and just Jeremy, the singer, was in kind of like a angular kind of post-hardcore type band, and so we just wanted to do something high energy, and up tempo, and a little bit pissed off. We were kind of feeling a little angry at the world at the time, so we just, we got together, jammed covers, decided to try to write a song, and that quickly snowballed into every time we got together, we would write a song, like once a month. And so over the course of like a year, we kind of just accrued enough material for a record. And we didn't play a show. We didn't do the thing where we created an Instagram or, social media account announcing our existence or anything like that. We kind of did all this like a little bit on the DL, and went and recorded all the songs we had. And before we played a show, and so we had this record, and kind of turned out better than we anticipated. We were all pretty stoked on it, and found a willing partner in our friend Ashton, who's in the UK, has a label called Boss Tunage. Is like, I'll put that out, and so we're like, wow, and decided to, at that point, kind of got a name and some imagery together, and booked some shows, and off we went. And so it sort of just began as like a little fun, like I wouldn't even call it a side project. It was just like a little thing to blow off steam, and kind of turned into this, like, I don't know, this thing that we all just, absolutely love. And then it kind of evolved from there, in that we sort of lost our original guitar player and sometimes singer, Ryan Felgen. And just, this is like around the pandemic. He just wasn't really up for kind of going out and playing more shows outside of Minnesota, which we were all kind of hankering to do, and so he kind of stepped aside, and then we had to kind of, figure that out, and sometimes we still have to figure that out. It's kind of an ongoing thing, but we do have a guy now who's recorded the new record with us, and he's just absolutely awesome, like a total shredder. And his name's Ryan Tate. So we have a new Ryan in the band, and so he's on the new record that came out last year, Rage Gracefully, and just we kind of leveled up, I believe, on that record in terms of the songwriting and the musicianship and the focus and the drive, and just kind of got better and better and kind of honed in on what we wanted to do and say, like, as a unit. I think we kind of got more of our own sound on this one, as opposed to maybe, I mean, I can still pick out the references in each song. Like I can tell you what we're, what we were drawing from for sure. But hopefully we sound a little bit more like a real band, I guess, or like I don't know. I don't know if that makes sense.
No, I understand that. Because where it came from, it wasn't like the impression and the coming together wasn't to form a real band, and it kind of matured into, as I'm throwing air quotes up that you can't see, but a real band where your focus was, hey, we've been doing this, but let's really fucking do it, and it's kind of comes through on the album.
Oh man, thank you. And I'm curious how you came to find that record. The new one, the Rage Gracefully. I know you have a record store. Did you order it, or did you?
No. So my friend is friends, and he had been on Engineer Records for a little while, and he went over there because I believe the guy, is it David? I forget his name from Engineer Records, but he
Gamage. Yep.
Yeah. And he came home with my buddy came home with a stack full of records. He's like, hey, he wanted you to have all these, listen through it all. And RAD was in there, and I listened to it, and I just had it blasting in the store, and I was like, fuck, this is awesome. And then and a lot of times when people give me stuff, it's like, sometimes a lot of it's not great, and it just ends up staying in the store and being sold. But when it's good, it is in my personal collection. So when you and I were talking and texting, and it's funny, guys, how you'll find out through other things that we talk about today, but actually found David through another band that he's in, and you're like, oh, I'm in this band, RAD, and I sent you a picture of the album right away, because of course it was right there, because I just listened to it at home as well, which is fucking hysterical how the world works.
Yeah, that's so cool. And that just, like I told you, that like made my night. I was just like, oh my God, that's,
someone does own this album.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, you're clear across the country, and someone I don't know, and it's just like, how does that happen? And it's like, oh, I guess, when you do have help getting your record put out into the world, I mean, that certainly is a we're a pretty small operation, and so yeah, we're super grateful for in the States, we have Sell the Heart Records, which is based out in Berkeley, and then they partnered with David in Engineer in the UK, in Europe, I think he partners with a guy Dingleberry Records in Germany, and so we've had people helping us get this thing out there, which is incredible, because we don't, we try to get out and play as much as we can. We just don't, we don't tour like a lot of bands do, just due to where we are at in life and with what the other things we have going on. So
everybody's got stuff going on, and that's the thing too, like where people like the certain age that you get to in life, like to go on even a mini tour is just like, that's an awesome thing to be able to do, or to even just go play like a fest or something like that. That's an awesome thing to do. And I don't think people truly understand, when you are older in life and you're not the fucking Foo Fighters
Yeah.
or Radiohead, or like, it's your life isn't touring. Like, nobody understands that there's 25 artists in this world that make money that can sustain what they want to do in life, and that's just make music. And then the rest of the 10 million artists in the world aren't making money, and they have to do other things. So life gets in the way.
Yeah, definitely. And and we're in a bunch of other bands, and it is, yeah, it gets really hard to kind of like make stuff happen. This band, we definitely want to do more stuff, and we're kind of pushing to try to make a few things happen. We do play, we've played the fest down in Gainesville, Florida now like 3 of the last 4 years. And that's kind of a big deal to us because those are like our people.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever been to one of those, but they always have such awesome lineups, and it's such a well done operation. Every year that we play there, we get a better and better response, play a bigger stage, get a better time slot, and people keep multiplying, and so that's just been like, that's kind of like our one thing that we make a point of doing whenever we can. We played Puza Fest up in Montreal, which is kind of a similar deal, a really awesome, well curated festival up there. That went really well. And we get out a little bit here and there, but it'll never be like slogging it for a month, or even 2 weeks, or maybe even a week. I don't know. It's tough to make things work these days. But so that's why I'm just grateful that anyone finds out about us. And Andy at Sell the Heart, David at Engineer, they've been so awesome to us. I think that they truly must just like the music, because we're not really like beating the street, in terms of playing gigs all over the place. But
no, I think, as opposed to when we were coming up at our age where we're at, I mean, back in that time, there was a lot of record labels that were really looking to find that band that was going to help them make money, right? And there were a ton of drive-throughs and Equal Visions and all these little subsidiaries of these labels that were trying to find the next band that's going to break to make them all this money, and then forget about it. I think everybody started with intentions of like doing something good just because of the music that they liked, but I think now we're where we are in our age, and I don't want this to turn into listeners out there that we're these old grumpy old men trying to but I think when you have the support of a Sell Your Heart or an Engineer or a Spartan or an Iodine, or I think it's now, truthfully, we're still children at our age, right? We just have like adult problems, but we have adult money to go with it. And if we can do something to help things that we love, I think that's where all those labels nowadays, like I just mentioned, Engineer, Sell Your Heart, or Spartan and an Iodine, and that are just like, hey, this is music we love. This is music we grew up on.
Yeah.
And we just want to find a way to get it into more people's hands. And you can tell by the music they're putting out and the bands that are on their label, they're not looking to make money. They're like, the end goal is like, hey, we just hope we break even. That's what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
But we want more people. And I think that lends itself to the era of music that we grew up on and what we love. It leads itself to all of us kind of meeting up together, right? And coming back together from being the punk kids going to shows, and now the bands are more refined or have a little better sound, and everybody just being like, man, we love this so much. We just want to share it with the world, and how can we do it and just be mildly successful? I know no one that owns any of these labels or, any of these distros are looking, no one's retiring off of it. Let's put it that way.
Right.
So it's all for the love of the music. And I think it's actually brought some amazing stuff and some amazing bands either back from the dead, let's say, or being able to create a whole new audience for a band that maybe slowed down a little bit and did go have to live their life and start a family, make their money, and do things like that. But I really think nowadays, especially talking with those people who own those labels and do all the, it's really it's all for the love of the music, and we're getting a more pure sense of what's coming out from them.
Exactly. I couldn't have said it better myself. I mean, it's I met I'm spacing on his name, but I met the guy who behind Iodine.
Casey?
Yeah, at Fest. One year, and it was right when that he did that just amazing. I mean, obviously, I have it right here. I'm grabbing it right now. The Quicksand Slip anniversary package. I sprung for the kind of the special packaging with the book and all the interviews and the photos and it just
the great job on that. I get to go see Quicksand in a couple weeks here again.
Killer. I mean, they're an all time. They're like a top 2 band for me, probably.
And that's kind of what I'm talking about. Remember Quicksand? It was 2 albums, Slip and Manic Compression, and they were gone. They were done. It was Walter went on and did some solo stuff and Rival Schools, but it was like, and then it kind of started to get that nostalgic feeling, and then there was those labels that were like, hey, let's fucking make something with these guys.
Yeah, and I remember talking to him, and I was just like, man, like, how did you find all that stuff? How did you put that together? It was so clear that it was done with so much care and love and reverence for this record that I feel, that to me is like, that's like one of the most important records of all time, and I know that there's a very small number of us out there that probably feel that, but it's like to see that someone else like was like, yeah, like this means I hope that he at least broke even or made a little money on that. Cause I mean, you could tell that he poured his heart and soul into that. And that's what I'm talking about, where it's just like, you need people to make the music and be in these bands to do the things, but the people that care so much to kind of like celebrate it and give it the attention that it deserves in reissuing these things or putting out new records, like my bands, you came through my other band, one of my other bands, Dead History, was a similar deal where we have a guy who helped us put that record out. It's someone who I know from another guy from Mankato, where I grew up, the town where I grew up, which has produced an inordinate amount of amazing musicians and artists. And he's, I don't know if you actually have the Dead History LP.
I don't.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I'll try to get one sent to you. It's the packaging is just out of this world. Like this guy, he just went crazy with whatever we made inspired him to make this. I mean, he makes awesome stuff no matter what, but
yeah,
it's really like, we were just like, this is more than we deserve, like this is insane. And so having just people like that in the world that are willing to sort of like,
they put their own neck on the line for you.
Exactly.
Right? That's the way you got to look at it. Like, that's how much they love it, that they're willing to, and that's where people, I think, need to get more credit, because it's not easy. Nothing worth doing is easy, right? So, yeah. I mean, they're doing it for the love of it, and when you can get the cool packaging and you see the attention to detail to stuff, and I'm a details guy.
Yes,
I am all about the details. And when there's little tiny things that, like, I know some people may overlook it, but I make a point to hey, I'll point it to people and say, look at this right here. I know you passed right by it, but that is fucking awesome. And it's the littlest thing, but it means so much to the person that created it that I want to try to take the time and pinpoint exactly, this needs to be looked at right here. This little fucking thing that you didn't think matters right here. That's awesome.
Yeah. And I am definitely that guy in every band that I'm in. whether it's like, I mean, certainly with my own drumming, I get very obsessive about, making sure everything is how I want it. And then I also kind of put everyone else through the ringer. If I hear something, when we're doing like the mixing process and stuff, I'm always the last one to be satisfied, and I have a really hard time letting things go, because I can sometimes get a little bit lost in the weeds, because I just want it to be like, we get one shot at this. I just want it to be like perfect. I want just right, and so I'm always kind of the last one to sign off. And then the same with not so much the Dead History record, because that was done by an Dan Black, who has this art studio / record label called Land here. And I mean, I don't question anything that he's going to do. It's going to be insane. And his attention to detail is just otherworldly. But the Rad Owl stuff, like I'm definitely the one that's like, I'm like, I have a writing background and editing background. So I'm like proofing the lyrics to make sure everything is good. I'm like, checking all the alignment on the the graphic design work, making sure that everything is just like, we thank the people that we need to thank, that we put some fun things in there that are kind of referential, and hopefully people notice those things. So yeah, same thing, man. I love, I just love, when I buy records, I want to look at the whole thing, and that's part of the whole. That's why this time in music right now for people like us is just so great, because people are doing this again, and considering the packaging, and considering the choices in the vinyl, and just like making it like an immersive experience again, and something that you can like sit down with and just kind of like, hopefully like put your fucking phone away or whatever, and sit with a piece of music with some accompanying art, and just like take it in, and that's
making you feel special about what you already felt was special, like that. And I think that's where some of these places are doing, like Spartan did the jealous knapsacks,
yes, yep,
stuff, and they did it a nice box set with all this, like, and at the time when you're listening to bands like that, and you're growing up listening to them and seeing them play, and like it's very special to you. And when that band goes away, there's other iterations, and especially Blair being the front of Knapsack, and then the Jealous Sound and Racket Club, like it has that same kind of sense to it. But that band was special in its own special way as Knapsack, and then for it to come back and somebody take the time and the energy to make this beautiful thing, and make you feel like your thoughts at that time of how special that band was, it kind of just reinforces it that, hey, I was right.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, validates it. I mean, that's exactly what I was getting at when I received this Slip vinyl 30th anniversary in the mail, and I opened it up. I was just, I can't believe someone else felt this strongly about this thing as I do, and to go to these lengths to celebrate it, and because these things were CD era, and we just didn't get. You just don't get that much with the CDs,
No, absolutely not. And listen, I'm not going to brag or anything, but I have an original pressing of Slip, so from back in the day.
That's killer. Yeah. Was that Revelation then, or was that?
Yeah.
Oh,
that was Rev before the whole island thing.
Yeah. Oh my God, that's amazing, unreal, man. Yeah, I mean, best record. I love Knapsack too. Love everything Sergi does. Love everything Blair does. We're peas in a pod. Sounds like pretty much.
Well, I want to ask a personal question. When it comes to music for you, for me, I've said it a million times here. I mean, I was 6 years old and I heard the Beach Boys and my life changed forever. That was my moment. Like that was my moment that led me to the age where I am now, to have a podcast, to own a record store and a music venue. Like that moment at 6 years old, hearing the Beach Boys for the first time changed my life. Do you have like a first musical memory where you kind of remember the first thing you heard that kind of like as a child, like made you like I was in the backseat of a car screaming to my parents, play it again, even though they couldn't because it was on the radio? But do you kind of have one of those things that may have happened?
Oh gosh, like going back, you said you were 6?
I was 6. Yeah, I heard the Beach Boys when I was 6 years old, and that led to this monstrous collection of music that's surrounding me in the studio right here.
I wish I had as cool of a story as that. Oh man, let me think. I mean, I was definitely like an FM radio, 80s radio like the first things I remember.
Like, did you up in a musical household? Was there music being played a lot in your
Um,
home, or?
Somewhat, yeah. I mean, definitely. My parents had records, and they were, kind of the. I mean, they were, I wouldn't say they were hippies, but they really liked, like folk music, and they had all like the Simon and Garfunkel and Bob Dylan and Beatles and Mama.
My dad was a big Gordon Lightfoot guy, so trust me, I get it.
Yeah, yeah. So I definitely remember that stuff being around, and my grandpa was a band director, and my dad played trombone. So I remember I remember listening to like having jazz around and stuff like that too. And but I can't say. I mean, the first things I remember, like sticking in my head and kind of asking my parents. The first things I wanted to buy were like kind of embarrassing things. Now, it's like
New Kids on the Block,
like Wham. Like I'd say like Wham was one of the first things I actually.
It's not embarrassing, man, because it slapped then and it slaps now if you listen.
Yeah,
to it.
and I shouldn't say like, yeah. I mean, it's honestly, yeah. Over time, it's proven to be
yeah
pretty legit, But my mom still has she sent me I have a photo somewhere of a Christmas, like a handwritten note that I made to Santa in like 1984 or 85, and it was mostly like Transformers and stuff, but like I had I asked for the Wham cassette.
Make It Big.
Yeah, Make It Big. Yeah, and I got it. I remember that was one of the first cassettes that I got. I had that and like Cyndi Lauper and like
Cyndi Lauper's
Michael Jackson Thriller. And,
yeah, all the stuff, the 80s stuff that was a necessity to be in a collection.
Right. So what I'd say is like, I mean, all that stuff was like, I was definitely a child of that time, and I loved all that stuff. And in hindsight, again, it's actually kind of rad because all that stuff, which was seemed kind of like fluffy and silly at the time, or in the 90s or whatever. It's since been borne out to be like, oh, that was actually like really good music. And like, so I guess I'm I shouldn't be embarrassed to say that I was a big fan of all that stuff, but I'll say this, like the first time I remember like knowing I wanted to play drums would be, so transitioning from like 80s pop music, just whatever's on the radio, to getting a little bit older and getting into like MTV and stuff. And I'm thinking like more like 86, 87, and coming home and seeing getting more into like the metal. And I'm not talking like gnarly metal, like more like glam metal stuff, like
Skid Row, Guns N'
Roses. Def Leppard.
Def Leppard.
And Guns N' Roses and Poison and stuff like that, and Motley Crue, and like I was certainly like a big fan of all that stuff. But even then, it was still kind of just like whatever was being kind of force fed, through TV and radio. And I didn't really understand. I wasn't really able to pick out instruments so much. It was just like the look of things, and and me and my friends would pretend to play along to songs, and my friends would always like grab the tennis rackets and pretend to be guitar players, and I get stuck having to pretend to be the drummer. I don't know, I don't even know what that was, maybe chopsticks or something. And I still didn't really know what drums were, but then I do have a distinct memory of like, when Metallica happened, when Metallica happened, I should say, in a mainstream sense, like when Injustice for All came out,
and one was on MTV.
Yeah, when one video was on MTV, and I saw, Lars playing and like kind of like, especially like those overhead shots of him playing, and just the sound of that record, like the drums sound so weird, like it's just all like attack, and like the mix of the drums was nothing I'd ever heard. And it was the first time I was just like, oh, that's what the drums are like. They just like stuck out to me, and immediately was like, that's what I want to do. Like it for some reason it just kind of made sense. Melodic stuff didn't really make sense to me, but rhythm made sense. And I found I was able to kind of like memorize the patterns, and I could replicate them just by, with my hands, like playing on my, on my knees, or,
Yeah.
or like grabbing like chopsticks or just anything that resembled a drumstick. And I could kind of like,
for me, it was wooden spoons. Those
yeah, sure. Yep. Yeah. Like that, like on pillows, and just kind of like,
Yep.
like playing, just copying like the snare patterns on Injustice for All, and like kind of obsessing about that, and like, um, and then, begging my parents to kind of like,
that was going to be my next question. What did your parents feel about you wanting to play drums?
Well, like I said, my grandpa was a band director, so music, like music in a classic sense was kind of like always an option and always around. And I didn't really understand that you could play drums in like school band. I just wanted to play in like Metallica. I didn't really I didn't really know what I was getting into, but they were like, well, if you want to play drums, you can just you can play the school band, and that'd be a great way to learn. And I was like, all right, I guess, if that's what you're telling me I got to do. And because I think I just probably asked for it, like anyone, I just asked for a drum set right out of the gate, and they were just like, no.
Yeah, no.
you're gonna like play with that for a week, and then you'll be on to the next thing, and we'll have wasted a bunch of money and whatever.
Little did they know.
Yeah, right. And so so I signed up for school band, and in order to do that, I had to take some piano. I had to take 2 years of piano lessons, which I just hated.
Like 90 million of us out there.
Yeah, it was just like, I just did not get anything out of it. And I, if I had a time machine, one of my few regrets in life is I wish I could have figured
sticking with it, right? When you get older, you're like, I wish I stuck with it.
There's so many times now, having done music on a semi-professional basis for all of my adult life, there's so many times when I'm just like, man, it'd be awesome to kind of know a little bit more about how this works, rather than just kind of riding intuition my whole life, and or just learning things by ear. But yeah, I just didn't really, I didn't dig it. I really wish I could play piano. But I made it. I faked my way through it for 2 years to the day. I had it like marked on my calendar, the day I was going to be able to quit. And I remember everyone was so disappointed in me, but I was just like, that's it. I did my time, and now I'm gonna.
What's funny about that time in the world, and I've tried to explain it to younger people nowadays, like in the 80s, and I don't know what it was, and I don't know why, but it was kind of everyone had a piano in their house. It was like a piece of furniture that everybody had to own. It was like you had to have a couch and you had to have a piano.
Definitely.
Like it's like going into your friend's house in the 80s. Everyone had I think we almost all had the same like stand-up Kimball fucking piano, like in somewhere. It was either in a dining room, a living room. But it boggles my mind that there's not so many, like there should be more like virtuoso fucking piano players and piano rock and roll and hardcore and emo out there based on what was in everyone's house in the 80s.
Right. No, that's a great point. Yeah. I mean, yeah, my parents still have that piano.
So do mine.
It's and every time I go home, I look at it and I'm just like, oh.
Yeah, they're like, hey, you want to take that to your store and put it on stage in your venue? I was like, no, we're good.
Yeah, maybe one of these days I'll try to go back and figure out what that was all about. And it's a shame, because it would be awesome to be able to learn to be able to play piano, and I still don't really know how to express myself on a melodic instrument, and I hear things in my head all the time, and I can't really. I can kind of hum them or explain them to someone. There was moments on records I've been involved in where I was able to kind of contribute with just by humming to the guitar player, and they could kind of be like, oh, kind of like this, and whatever. And the first RAD record, there's a few things I'm actually kind of proud of that I was able to kind of convince the guitar player to try, and we ended up keeping them, but yeah, it'd be awesome to be able to like I said, express myself on a melodic instrument. It just never really like the drums just it just made sense like almost from the jump for me. Like it just seemed like that was predetermined, or preordained, that was going to be what I set
Well,
into.
I think it kind of worked out. Like, and to like if your parents only, like I said, if they only knew then what to where you are nowadays,
Yeah,
it's like finding what you're supposed to do at a young age. Not many people can say that that's true, and like you're still going out, recording, playing drums, like doing all these things, and that's in and of itself, that's a pretty spectacular feat.
yeah. They're like really they know that I've you know they know what I put into it, and they're really proud of everything I've been able to do. And even just a few weeks ago, I met him for my dad's birthday, and was telling him about what I have upcoming here. Like I was telling you, I'm going to be out in your neck of the woods next week, playing shows out east, filling in for a band from the UK called Skinny Lister, and beyond the bands I'm in, I have these random opportunities now and then to go play and do tours and stuff like that. They're like, wow, you've really, you've gotten a lot out of this, and continue to, you've really achieved a lot of things. So yeah, they were always very supportive, and they knew where my heart lies, in terms of like what I was into. And that's the thing about anything, you can't force anyone to like something or to do something a certain way, in a weird way. You have to kind of let people find things for themselves. And, I did stick through school band for most of high school. I think I quit my last year finally, cause I never got good at reading music, so I would never really progress to the,
I think some of the best musicians never.
I had too good of an ear. Like I could hear something and repeat it. And, like I remember just thinking, I was like, well, why do I need to learn how to read this? I can just listen to the kid next to me play it once, and then I can do it, and I just didn't like, I could never do. I got to the point where I could read if we did something over and over again, but when it came to like sight reading and stuff like that, I was just lost and had no interest. And I think I was always more interested in either replicating the drummers that I really loved in rock music and whatever I was listening to, or expressing my own ideas, and and just through listening and through interaction in real time, and so so I never really parlayed the school band thing into anything beyond just sort of like the base level, whatever the medium band is in high school. But yeah, I mean, I talk about this all the time with people, because later on in life I ended up working at a music college here in the Twin Cities, which no longer exists. It was called McNally Smith, but it was kind of like a Berkeley model, Berkeley School of Music, where they had like performance and also music production and audio engineering and music business and all these things. And but man, these kids that would go through there and they were just kids. I mean, they'd be like 18, and I'd walk by them as they're rehearsing and stuff. And I mean, they could drum circles around me. I mean, just, could play any style. You could throw any music in front of them and they could just read it and play it. And, super impressive. And commendable, but like for me, it was just never really about that. I and this is a total generalization, but I feel like people that tend to be trained like that, it's like, yeah, you can kind of play anything, but what do you want to play? Like, what do you have to say? Like, what's your kind of like, I don't know. I don't mean to sound like I'm making excuses or something like that, but I feel like sometimes like artists, like limitations are kind of what makes them interesting.
Yeah.
If you can play anything, then it's just kind of like, well, what's the point? It's I don't know. I've written a lot of, I used to write a lot for Modern Drummer, Drum Magazine. I've interviewed a lot of people, and a lot of the drummers who I really admire, who I had conversations with and stuff. It's usually like you would find something out about them that would kind of explain why they sound the way they do. Like I remember interviewing like Zach Barakis from Jawbox, who's just,
Yeah, I read that interview. I read the Stevenson interview. Like,
awesome.
yeah,
Yeah. I mean, Zach Barakis was like left-handed, but was taught to play on a right-handed drum kit. And, a lot of the times those guys will play, like Phil Collins or something, like the kit's reversed, which would be natural,
yeah.
or play like open-handed.
Yeah, mine's reversed, and it's the same thing. Growing up in the '80s, like if you were left-handed, like I'm predominantly like I write with my right hand, but it's horrible because, as I say, there was only one pair of green scissors in the room.
Yeah.
So the one kid who was 1000% lefty, that was it. Everybody else had to learn to do it the right-handed side. Same thing with playing drums. They're like, no, this is how you play it, and you're like, well, it doesn't feel comfortable.
Yeah,
And
right.
it turns out I'm lefty. Like
Yeah, it's that kind of thing blows my mind. I just didn't even realize that was like a thing that you and Zach and other people had to kind of deal with as an obstacle to like learning an instrument, and how to learn, how to be proficient and express yourself on this thing. And you're kind of like almost starting with like this weird handicap, but then it kind of turns into like a signature thing. And you see like, there's other drummers like this too, like the original drummer from Big Drill Car, he was left-handed. And you kind of like notice why these fills kind of sound the way they do, like we're like, that's just something a little weird about that. And it's because they're like leading with like a different hand or whatever, it's, I don't know, it's fascinating stuff. So anyway, just, I think, yeah, that, art is a little more interesting when you're sort of, you have these sort of parameters or things that are kind of like reining you in, so you're not just throwing the kitchen sink at everything.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot goes back to, like you said it earlier, about like the perfectionist thing of making sure everything's right, but I think a lot of the most perfect stuff comes from the imperfections that most people normally wouldn't notice are there, but like students of the game and people who really pay attention notice the imperfections. But to me, sometimes that's what makes it perfect.
Oh, totally.
Yeah,
and I try to be better at letting go of that stuff. When I say I kind of like go over my stuff with a microscope, it's I want the feel to be there, and I don't mind there being I just don't like mistakes, mistakes, but like certainly like, a big thing would be with drumming would be like, once Pro Tools came along, that kind of advent of like quantizing everything and gridding everything and fixing, moving things around so they line up exactly right. And then you kind of squash all the human feel out of it,
Yeah.
I don't do that anymore. There was certainly a period where records I was making were kind of being put through that process, and didn't really understand why I wasn't as happy with the result. And it's like, yeah, because it just sounds like.
And there's a lot of that stuff when you're a true musician, like, when you tighten it up so much and stuff, shit can't be replicated playing live. And that's one of the best experiences you can have, is seeing a band that you love live. But when you realize that they can't do half of the shit that's on the recording because it's so manipulated, that you're just like, well, I mean,
yeah.
But that's kind of what I love too, when there are bands who the live sound, like the album's great, but the live sound is like sometimes a half a step faster.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, because they can't replicate the exact sound, but like now you're getting like the same version, a little bit different of a song, but you're just like, wow, that's fucking amazing what they're doing right there, because that's not what you're used to listening to.
Totally. Yeah, I mean, every time I, with the exception of, a few bands I've been in, we would play live to a click track. I always called it being in click jail, because live, especially, if you're playing a good show and there's people there, your heart rate goes up, but if you're on the click track and it's like the album tempo, it always feels so slow.
Yeah.
But it's correct, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, you can't get rid of the adrenaline. Like it's,
Right.
you know,
Right. So you're kind of just being like held back, and it's
yeah,
just like you don't really, um, you don't really get to kind of like, I don't know. So I prefer, there's definitely times when I'll see like someone will post a video of a show and I'll be like, oh man, we're playing so fast. And that's my fault, or whatever. And,
well,
but
there's,
then it's kind of exciting that way, it's,
yeah, like remember the movie, That Thing You Do? Um,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Totally.
but it's like the new drummer comes in and he's playing, and the lead singer's turning around. You're too fast. You're too fast. But it brings out this whole new song, and then they get big. And it's like, hey, sometimes it's like just listen to the fucking drummer, right?
Yeah.
He knows he knows how it's supposed to sound. Just follow him.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. No, totally. And again, it should be about the human chemical reaction that's happening between who's ever on that stage and who's ever in that room in that moment. Like I've certainly had shows where it's like either you've been on tour or you're playing and there's no one there, and it's just the vibe is just not rad, and I'm probably not playing super fast at those shows, but when it's a packed room and it's a good show and you're just, the excitement is there. It's like, yeah, it's hard to kind of keep that bottled in, and, but certainly, the more and more you do it and the older you get, you hopefully get better at, containing those, the amount of speed up that's detrimental to to the to the to the sound of the thing. But yeah.
Now, when you started playing drums in school, did you have like friends around you that, because this always, the way I look at it is I think almost everyone had the same experience. You find an instrument that you're going to play, you start playing it, and you look for other people that are playing instruments and you want to start a band right away. Did you do that? And what was the name of that very first band that you started?
I mean, yeah, I think all along I was like, I that's what I wanted, and I knew that's what I wanted, but it was, for me, it was slower to materialize than a lot of other people's stories I've heard. Like basically, like there was like two high schools, two main high schools in the town that I grew up. There was East and West. I went to East, and the majority of people that were playing,
all the cool kids were in West.
Yeah, most of them went to West. Although that's not entirely true. The older classes had bands. It's just that my class didn't really have a lot of people that were playing, and so when I was younger, you're kind of more a slave to whatever grade you're in, and your immediate, whoever's around you. I certainly had like a really good friend who we consumed a lot of music together. Two really good friends, actually, who the first people I ever jammed with, and they both play guitar. And so I was doing that as early as probably eighth grade, seventh grade, eighth grade, ninth grade. And then, and then all along I was in school band. And so yeah, so I should say, so school band started, I think, summer of fifth grade for me. I did not get a drum set until like ninth grade, I want to say. So I had to wait a while. I really had to stick it out, and prove that I was into this, and earn the money to get a drum set and all that stuff. And so mostly I was just learning, I learned how to play snare drum and stuff through school band, but I was learning the drum set just by going home after school and putting on headphones and just trying to figure it out, just trying to copy what I was hearing and figure it out, the coordination part of it and all that stuff. So, and then we'd try to kind of play stuff. I had a neighbor across the street who played bass. And so we would play together. But yeah, it really wasn't until a little bit later. I think I was probably 16 when I finally would have played a show. And so Mankato, this town I grew up in, was, just miraculously, when the years that I was a kid, had this amazing all ages punk rock and hardcore scene. For a town of our size and where we were, no business having the shows that we had. And so I started, my neighbor across the street who played bass, he was a year older than me. And then he had an older brother, saw that I was playing drums. He told me about, he's like, well, there's a band in town that's really good. They have a really good drummer. You should go see them. They play all ages shows and stuff. There's this band called the Libido Boys, which was like a legit punk band. Like they went out and toured and played shows like Descendants and stuff, toured England, toured Europe. The original bass player worked at the independent record store downtown. And his name was Dustin Perry, and he ended up being in a band called Snapcase, which I'm sure you know about, from Designs for Automation on, like the last couple Snapcase records. He's still in Snapcase. They just played in Chicago. I saw it this weekend. That dude was like a huge, guiding light for me when I was a kid. I would just go into the record store and ask him what I should buy, and he'd give me like 10 things. And, so when you talk about owning your own record store, I feel that, as a kid, that was like where I learned everything, early on. And, so I it's probably ninth grade. I went to my first shows.
What was your first show?
So I saw this band, Libido Boys. It was their last show ever, actually.
So was that your very first concert ever, or was that the first show you got to go to?
First concert ever of any real significance would have been Lollapalooza in 1992.
Nice. I saw that too.
Did you?
Yeah.
Oh, killer. I mean, that was a game changer. I mean, my trajectory into punk rock was definitely like, probably like glam hair metal into Metallica and then kind of like, big four type metal into, then I had like a huge, like hip hop, like Public Enemy, like Ice Cube type phase. And then it was kind of like, I guess, alternative / grunge or whatever. It's like Nirvana, being a huge, opening the door to discovering like whatever, Jane's Addiction, Pearl Jam, Red Hot Chili Peppers, all the Seattle stuff, Soundgarden. I loved Soundgarden, of course. And so, and then from there, I was like discovering like real punk rock and hardcore and really kind of getting into that stuff. But so all this stuff is so funny. I think about it now, it all happened so fast. You're just absorbing so much music. And from year to year, you're like, this is my favorite band. And now this is my favorite band. This is, and so certainly, 92 was like, I was still loved hip hop. And so Lollapalooza 92, as I mean, like Ice Cube played that year and that was huge for me, but was really getting into Soundgarden and Pearl Jam. I think Red Hot Chili Peppers, I certainly loved at the time. Those early records or whatever, stuff that I didn't appreciate at the time, but I'm glad I saw, like Lush and Jesus and Mary Chain. Looking back now, I'm just like, holy cow, I can't believe I saw that. That was like my first concert, So I got to see that. And that blew my mind. And then like immediately after, I started going to these local, all ages punk shows in Mankato. And, so the first one would have been the last Libido Boys show, which they didn't really get to play that long. They had to shut the thing down because it was like oversold and there was some sort of structural danger in the venue. And I remember the first full show that I went to, though, would have been shortly after that. And that was a band called Reach, which was partially from Mankato, partially from Minneapolis. And that band featured Dustin Perry, who would go on to be in Snapcase, in a band called Threadbare, which was super important to all of us too, growing up here. He was playing guitar in that band, and the singer in that band was Brad Senny, who sings in Dead History. So this is the first show, really, I would say, that I went to, because the Libido Boys one was cut so short. So first show I ever went to was this band Reach, and they were local, and I couldn't believe a local band could sound that good. They were phenomenal. Their drummer is just phenomenal. Mike Paradise. He's a friend now, and he's been in a bunch of great stuff. He was in 108 for a while, and just really kind of in that Alan Cage mold of drumming, like just a killer drummer. Brad, who I now have the unbelievable honor of playing in a band with, was just like unbelievably intense and amazing. And he was probably like 18, 17 at the time. I was like 13, and it was pretty much over after that. I mean, I was just like, that's, because you could get right. I just seen Lollapalooza, which was like, giant field of people. And even if you're up kind of close, like the people on stage were just like little specks bouncing around and stuff. And as opposed to like going to a show where there's a few hundred people and you could go right up to the stage and just feel the air moving from the drums and the excitement. And certainly that's when everyone was stage diving and, moshing and stuff. And I was of the age where I was just like, oh my God, like this is it. This is what I want to do, and so yeah. So and then so we had all these like local bands that would do shows, but then we would have touring bands would come through this town that I grew up in, like literally, a couple miles from my parents' house, $3 shows, $4 or $5 shows sometimes. And pretty soon we were getting kind of like a reputation for being an awesome place to play. And, so I saw, all these bands that were like Epitaph, Fat Records, Revelation Records type bands, Cruise Records, all played there. Big Drill Car played there, Jawbreaker, Rancid, Offspring before they were huge. Green Day played there before they were huge. 108, Shelter, all those great Revelation bands played there. Like Iceburn and we just go to all of it, because we're a small town. Like, what else are we going to do? And so it's just miraculous to have that right at our front doors as kids that were interested in this stuff. And we just kind of tried to emulate what we were seeing from these touring bands. Sam I Am played there, they were like my favorite band, I couldn't believe it. And then of course, once we got to be of driving age, we would go up to Minneapolis as well and see shows at like First Avenue and all the great clubs up here. One of the first shows I ever saw at First Avenue was Quicksand on the Slip tour, headlining $5, Seaweed opening, Super Bowl Sunday, 1994, I want to say. And Slip was like my favorite record, already. And that changed my life,
Unsung band, Seaweed. Like, wow.
Yeah,
Unsung band.
Seaweed is great. So yeah, I just was really lucky. The older I get and the more I kind of get a little philosophical and whimsical about things, you really start to realize you're like, man, like so much of how your life, at least for me, I've never been like stuff just, in a way, I feel like stuff just kind of happens in a serendipitous way for me. Like I'm not someone who really tries to put things out into the world. Like I don't have like a 5-year plan. I don't like self-promote like I probably should if I was wanting to do a lot of things. I just like things just kind of enter my orbit somehow and kind of organically unfold, like I know so-and-so and then I play this gig and then I meet so-and-so and leads to this other thing. And, it just kind of unfolds that way. And I feel like when I go back to the beginning, it just all is because I was born in a time and place where this stuff was happening. I could have grown up in any other town of like 50,000 people and there could have been fuck all going on except for, college or like high school football games and keggers and, and not to say like, I mean, that was going on too. And I probably did some of that too, but I mean, to have like this conduit to the outside world and not only that, but like this thing that I was very interested in from an early age, but honestly had no idea how to get there. I mean, when you're into bands like Guns N' Roses and Metallica and stuff, it's like, they might as well be fucking aliens, it's like, how do you, when you're growing up in Mankato, Minnesota, like, how is that even achievable? I don't live in California. I don't, and so having this like fertile kind of thing in this town that I just happened to grow up in, and have it be all ages, you know, and have it be affordable, and have it be kind of like accepting of like having local bands play and all that stuff. And, you know, it was just so fortuitous, you know, and that's just kind of how it all unfolded for me. You know, I really started to meet people who were serious about wanting to play by going to these shows. You know, it wasn't so much the people that were in my class in high school. It was like, you know, people that were a little bit older than me. Some that went to my high school, some that went to the other high school, and just somehow convincing these people that I could play drums and was serious about wanting to jam and, you know, whatever it was. Like, I think it all started probably much like Rad Owl started, just like playing covers, you know. I mean, for sure, my first show that I ever played in front of people was a Doughboys tribute set. We played like 10 or 12 Doughboys songs. We opened for this Canadian band called Punch Buggy.
I know Punch Buggy.
So, yeah. Awesome guys.
And the Doughboys, like, I love when I hear someone mention the Doughboys.
Oh.
I don't think many people know who they are, but
yeah,
and they're like, I always called them power pop because, you know, distorted guitars with beautiful vocals. To me, that was always power pop. But like, yeah, that kind of stuff, and the Doughboys, again, Kastner, anything basically Kastner ever did, you know, All Systems Go, all of his solo stuff, like I was all in on that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, they're an all-time favorite for me. I mean, really, that anything that's kind of comes out of that Descendants all family tree, like Big Drill Car and Doughboys especially, for me, it's just like, you know, I kind of learned how to play, you know, by playing along to those records. And, you know, I've since, you know, in recent years, I've got to become friends with Brock Pytel, who's the original drummer for the Doughboys. He played on the first two records and sang a bunch of those songs. You know, he wrote a bunch of those songs. He was a drummer singer. You know, a couple of years ago, we got to play out in Vancouver with John Snodgrass, and we played with Brock Pytel's band, the Slip-Ons, who are awesome. And we got to play a Doughboy song. And we got, I Won't Write You a Letter, like the track 3 on Home Again, like their anthem, you know, and he sang it, and I got to play drums, and me and my friend Jeremy, who plays in Rad Owl as well. And we played with John Snodgrass. He was in my first band ever. He was in the Doughboys tribute band that I was in when I was 16 or whatever. Here we are playing with an actual Doughboy who wrote and sang this song, you know, in Canada in front of a good audience. There was like, you know, 150 people there, packed little club, but people were just loving it. They knew what it was, you know. It was like, it meant something to them. And I mean, that was just like a out of body experience, you know, and a full, I mean, talking about full circle. I mean, that's, you know, not a lot of people get it. That's why it's just amazing that you know what that is, you know, because, and what that means. It's, yeah, definitely a massive band for me and everyone in Rad Owl. We recorded a Doughboy song for a tribute album. It's supposed to be out sometime this year, I believe. So,
oh, I'm excited for that. Well, speaking of Rad Owl, this would probably be a tough question for you. It's usually a tough question for most artists, but if no one ever heard the band Rad Owl and you had to play them one song and you could only play them one song, what song are you playing for them?
Oh, wow. That's tough because we kind of have like some, you know, we love all these bands, and we try to like, we're just trying to, you know, it's just like when you're a kid, you know, that's what this band is about. Kind of, it's just like you're trying to kind of copy your favorite stuff at the time. And so we have different modes, you know. There's the stuff that's very like melodic and Doughboysy or Descendancy, or, you know, kind of in that mold. Then there's the stuff that's a little more like propagandy, or like, you know, more skate punk, like really fast, and a little more technical. Geez, I don't know. I would probably say like, you know, certainly on the first record, the second song, Aladdin's Castle, that's kind of like the first song that we all wrote together, where we were like, that was the second song we wrote. And I was like, this feels like we have something, like this could be a band, you know, like we kind of stumbled onto something. And so that's a song that we still play at most shows to this day. So I'd be tempted to say that, but I just think the new record is such a step forward from the first record. I'd probably say that the first song on the new record would be a good one, just because it's kind of like an overture, I guess. Like it's got a little bit of everything. Like it's kind of mid tempo and very melodic. It's got some like really thick, cool, like kind of Stephen Edgerton kind of guitar riffs. And very positive lyrics. Like some of the stuff isn't so positive on the new record. It's, most of that stuff was like kind of pandemic era lyrics and stuff. So it's kind of a moody time, but like that's a positive song. I'm really proud of how the kind of like the instrumental bridge part, we worked kind of hard to make that part work. And it's got kind of like an anthemic kind of a thing going on there. And then the drum part at the very end, I'm very proud of. That's the one part of the whole record I was still kind of figuring out in the studio. That's the last song we wrote for the record. And we were kind of still tweaking the arrangement right up until we were actually tracking the thing. And of course the drums have to go first. And I still hadn't figured out what I was doing in the end. And me and the engineer just kind of sat there for like a half hour, and I was just throwing stuff against the wall and finally kind of landed on this thing that I'm really happy with, and feel like it's still hard for me to play like live. So that's always kind of a fun thing when it's something that I'm, I get a little nervous when it's coming up when we're playing it. And I'm just like, oh, am I gonna be able to pull this off tonight or what, And so it's something I have to keep working on, which is always good. It's good to have something that you're still like kind of reaching for, So yeah, I'd say that one. It's called Doppler. That's the first song on Rage Gracefully. Yeah.
Awesome. You were talking about performing and getting to perform with Adobe, but throughout your career, is there a moment, and I'm going to look for two moments here, but a good one and a bad one, but in your career, like for performances, is there like, do you kind of remember like what your favorite performance ever was? And then kind of the bad one is usually just that one that occupies that space in your brain forever and pops up when you really don't want it to, but that moment of something where it went terribly wrong.
Oh gosh. These are tough questions. I don't really know if I have to really rack my brain here. I mean, certainly there's always shows where, for the most part, the shows I find something redeeming about the show. Like for me, a good show is just if I play up to what I think my standard is, and, I don't like fuck up a bunch or, anything like that, which typically that doesn't really happen. Earlier on when I was younger, I may have like self-sabotage a little bit by maybe like, just not treating my body right, or, not knowing drinking limits before playing or stuff like that. And you're kind of struggling through a show, or you eat a bunch of crappy food right beforehand or something, you just learn how to like be more show ready as you go, learn from your mistakes and stuff. And so for the most part, they're pretty good. And my threshold for a good show is just like, did I do well? Did the band do well? And all that's, but of course it's awesome to have an audience, and I've had great shows when there's not that many people there and there's still just something magical happens, and you're playing really loose because the stakes are kind of low, and you kind of reach for things that maybe you'd be too nervous to attempt in front of a bigger audience, and, I'm just trying to think of like specific things. I mean, I can certainly think of like kind of like milestone shows that I'll never forget. And a lot of those would be more like, certainly the Gratitude years. We played some really big shows, and just playing those and not completely turning into a puddle of like, because the nerves are pretty strong at some of these things. Like we got to play Coachella, Reading and Leeds in the UK, I mean, those are giant festival shows. Those are probably like 10,000 people, and which for me is a lot of people. And, you know, opening, we did like 3 weeks, 4 weeks, opening for Jimmy Eat World on the Futures tour. They were kind of at the height of their commercial success. Those were big shows. So just kind of like playing well at those things and being received well, I would say, yeah, now that I'm thinking about it, like Reading and Leeds in Gratitude, the best stuff we ever did, the best reception we ever had was in the UK. Like the UK just loved us. And, we played, a lot of
what's not to love about that?
Man. That was a pretty magical time in my life in terms of just like feeling like I reached, like I was like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing, and I got there, and you're playing to people that want to see you play. I mean, I'm so used to being in bands where, you're just hoping that 10 people show up and, like someone gives a shit, someone was paying attention and noticed something and wants to, just even like the slightest bit of interest in what you're doing, how much you're putting into it. And, to be doing that for several years and kind of like not sure if it's going to go anywhere, and maybe you're going to give up, and your friends are giving up, and, and then you have this opportunity, and all of a sudden you're kind of playing to people that love your music, and just getting that, energy back that you're expending is, that was, it was a long time ago now. So sometimes I forget about it, but that was like, it was a very, I can see why people get, it was almost like doing drugs or something, you get a real buzz off of it. And certainly like the shows we did, everything we did in the UK was incredible. We were so lucky, with what we got to do over there. And I'd say the highlight of all that, I mean, we played these Reading and Leeds festivals, which I've heard, since I was young, was like stuff of like legend, hearing about like Nirvana at the Reading Festival when I was a kid. I had no idea what that was, but I knew it was a big deal, and, I had this memory, and I don't even need to have the memory. There's video of it and stuff like that. So I've seen it, over the years, but like, people brought like in the UK, people are crazy. I mean, like rock and roll fans are like rabid, and it's just a different level of energy over there. At least then it was. And people had brought like banners and stuff, with our name on it, and flags, and like, it was like a full on like festival, like, atmosphere. And it was just like, I was like, I can't believe these people are here to see us, and they knew the words, and they're singing, and just, I don't know. I mean, that was certainly, just unforgettable. I mean, there's been, I've been really lucky. I got a lot of, great memories playing shows, but I mean, that would certainly be something that would take the cake, and of course it's just the validation of it, I mean, I was probably like 25, 26 at that time, I want to say. So really young, but at the time, I was thinking, before I got that break and getting into Gratitude, you're kind of thinking like, well, how much longer do I have to keep, taking stabs at this thing, before I gotta kind of pack it up and get a job or whatever, And so, the Gratitude thing didn't last very long, but while it did, I mean, that was just kind of like, I mean, you talk about, again, my parents were always supportive, my grandparents were always supportive, but it did feel good to be like, hey, check it out. This is my job right now, and I kind of felt like I'd made it, even though it was very fleeting, and so, I'm certainly, that stuff is forever etched into my brain. And I would say that would be.
Yeah. And those are the things you can't, take for granted, not,
No.
there's a handful of people that ever got to do that, right? And
Yes.
that's where it comes to, when people look back. And I have some artists who went away for a little while and then came back now that they're older, and they're like, I wish I had. I'm like, yeah, but look at the life you have, right? Like, if you were doing those things, everything else in your life would be wrong. That's why, that time machine, like Back to the Future, you change one thing, everything in the future is different.
Yes.
But, and that's where it kind of comes to that point too, where I'm like, yeah, no, like I've lived my life not knowing, but without regrets, because I look back and I say, I wouldn't change a thing, like even the bad stuff, because I'm who I am today because of every single thing that happened in my life. And maybe if some of that bad shit didn't, like, maybe I'd be a different person right now, and I kind of like who I am,
Yeah.
so it's
And even like related to that, like, I talk about, the gratitude thing was fleeting, and it was just like 2 years or so. And then I was right back to just hoping that 10 people are going to show up to see my band, and like, that was a tough transition, where, here you are, you're like, I made it, like I grinded and I worked at this. And, you have a kind of like imposter syndrome when you're first there. And I mean, the whole time I felt like I had imposter syndrome, cause it was like a major label band, and we're making $90,000 videos in Malibu and photo shoots and weird LA parties. And the whole thing was weird. And frankly, I didn't really like a lot of that stuff. I felt very, it was just not my personality. But that was my dream. I was like, this is what I dreamed of when I first wanted to be a drummer. I'm touring, and I don't have to work right now. Like, I'm actually like getting paid to play drums, and like, this is part of the deal. Uh, it was validating. I honestly, I had like a thing, one of those dumb things where, like, in your senior yearbook or something, they're like, where do you see yourself 5 years from now or 10 years from now, or whatever the thing was. And I honestly said, like, I want to be playing drums in a band in San Francisco. Because at the time, all my favorite bands were like, it was like Sam I Am, Jawbreaker, and like everyone was from East Bay or San Francisco. Even, I mean, going further, Faith No More and Metallica and all that stuff. I just thought, like, that's, if you're telling me I can do anything in the world, I want to be playing drums in a band in San Francisco. And I did it. I was like, oh shit, like, here I am. And but it was kind of over in a flash, and then you're back to like square one in a way. And so the years afterward were kind of like, okay, so how do I get back to that? How do I, can't be that hard. We kind of like know what we're doing now. Let's figure this out. And like, just trying really hard to make another go at it. But then you're, starting to get like to be 30 and stuff. And, it's just, for me, I kind of lost the spark and the reason for why I did it in the first place. When when you find yourself, you're chasing it, like, kind of for the wrong reasons, you're trying to make a career out of it.
Yeah.
Cause I thought that I could make that last for a while, and I didn't really want to do anything else, so I'm just like desperately trying to get back to that thing. And then you kind of lose it. You lose the plot, and I this brief, it didn't seem brief at the time, but there was this moment where I lost the love of playing music and playing drums. And it was really because I was like resenting, it wasn't because I wasn't trying hard or wasn't playing well or whatever. It just, stuff wasn't happening the way I wanted it to. And I was working jobs that I hated, and just, it was kind of like just diminishing returns. And, that was kind of like a really, I don't want to be like over, melodramatic or anything, but that was kind of like a dark time when you have to kind of like look in the mirror and kind of like let the dream die, kind of a thing. And,
yeah.
So I would say, kind of tying this back to the Rad Owl thing. I mean, um, you know, like I kind of wanted to like just quit playing drums. I was just like, I'm just gonna quit this, go back to school, take up writing, get a job. Just this is just I can't, just gotta quit this. And um, that's when I started playing this band BNLX. I was telling you about this guy Ed Ackerson, who's a local producer here. Well, he's nationally known as well, but he was a big deal in Minneapolis, and certainly someone who I knew and admired. He kind of like sought me out to play in this project that he was doing, and I think I even told him, I'm just like, man, I'm not like playing drums anymore, and I think I'm gonna stop doing that. And and like I'll never forget, he was just like, well, that's dumb, like you're too good to do that, like you should be doing something. And he kind of convinced me to like just do some recordings with them, and then eventually convinced me to play live with them and stuff. And that turned into a whole, 8 years or so of doing that. But really what got me back to the true, like inner child joy of what playing drums, playing music, making music for the sheer, just the joy of it was kind of reconnecting with my old friends and doing this Rad Owl stuff, and kind of tapping into the things that I loved when I was just first learning how to play music, which was all these bands that we've been referencing, and making something for ourselves and really not even caring what anyone else would think about it, and not trying to market it and not trying to make it a big deal. Just, recording the stuff and putting it out, and hoping that, maybe someone would like it. And the fact that, it's resonated with people, even like yourself, who had no idea who we were, and you can kind of like maybe hear the stuff that we're borrowing from, and you get the references, and but hopefully there's something there, like an energy and like an honesty that you can tell that we really, and clearly we're not doing it for money or for anything other than just it's something that we just love to do, and that's, I just think that has been such a gift to kind of rediscover the joy of making music simply for music's sake, and the people that you're spending time with while you're doing it. And that's how I found myself in all these bands again at 46 years old. It's like, oh my God, yeah, this is great. This is it. This is the thing, and I just want to do as much of it as I can while I'm physically able, and while people are excited to be doing things. And, it's sort of like just, especially in my 40s, it kind of just, all these opportunities just kind of opened up. And, so I'm just trying to keep it all going for as long as I can, and it's just been a huge reward to kind of get to talk to people like you, and just like I didn't think any of these things that I'm doing would matter to anybody, but it was enough that it mattered to me and my friends that were making it, and it still is. But it's just like icing on top of the cake that like someone like you found it and reached out to us, and like I said, that made my night, made my month. It was like negative 19 degrees the other day when you sent that message, and I'm just sitting there like, ugh. And like, and lo and behold, it's like, oh yeah, someone like in New Jersey like knows who my band is and wants to talk about it. That's crazy. That's magic to me.
Well, it is important what you do. And I think, a lot of times it's lost. And I try as often as I can to, reach out to artists, tell them how important they are, and what they're creating, how much it means to me, in the hopes that it does reach them. Because I just think it's one of those things where, gone to so many shows in my life, been a part of so many great music experiences and moments. And, instead of walking past someone who just got off stage and saying, "Hey, great show, man," just saying thank you. Like, and that's where I am in my age now. And I take the moment, if I have that opportunity, just to walk up to him and be like, "Hey, that was fucking great. What you do is great. And I just want to say thanks for it. Like, because without that, wouldn't have gotten me out of the house tonight, wouldn't have gotten me to see that experience, wouldn't have, met someone there who has similar experiences and moments and have a new friend. And like, so it's like, thank you.
Yeah.
Like just for what you did. You may think it's just, you're just playing music or something, but it's not, it's more than that. And that's where it's, my heartfelt thank yous to everyone that does it, because people don't understand how actually hard and how much it takes out of you, and the work you have to put in, and the things you may miss because you were playing music. Like it's better to say thank you than, hey, great show. Like just, hey, don't stop saying that, but just, hey man, that was awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. Those moments really make my, especially if you're like on tour or something and that you don't really know people where you are or something like that. Maybe you think no one was paying attention or something, and some random person will come up and say something genuine that I can tell they were like paying attention, and they cared, and you're just like, oh, like it wasn't all for nothing.
Yeah, it's all that, it's that kind of stuff. And my thing is always, you never know what someone else is going through in life. You never know like anything. And so if you just poured your heart out to me and a song or a show, it's, it is that big, like, that took balls, that took guts, that took everything to do it. And you're hoping that, my hopes is that thank you gets you through the next 10 shows. Right. And I equate it to sometimes with the show, when we do get responses, sometimes we don't, but when, the response comes through, hey man, that was a great episode. Thank you. Guess what? That gives me the vim and vigor to, all right, that gets me through the next 10 episodes of maybe one or two that I'm like too tired to want to do. But that one person was like, hey man, that last interview was fucking great.
Yeah.
Thanks for that. And it's like, oh, and I was, maybe, who knows, I had a bad day at work and I was feeling down, and that little fucking thing that got me through the next fucking 2 weeks and the next 5 recordings of episodes. And they don't realize that maybe, but like that is so important. It is, I think it's lost a lot of times where we take it for granted. Sometimes you feel justified because you paid the ticket to go see this, but at the same time, like, go just say thanks, because that's what's so important.
Yeah, it is. It's interesting as a musician and somebody who's done this again, like like a semi-professional basis, but someone who's poured their heart into it for majority of my adult life and stuff. And it's interesting, when you go to shows just as a spectator and you kind of observe people. Sometimes you're just subject to like their banter and stuff like that, and people that aren't really, I don't know, thinking about music maybe on as intent of a level as I am. They're there for like maybe different reasons or something like that, and maybe they're kind of bitching about something, and didn't play this song or whatever. You're just kind of like, man, like it just, I don't know. It's interesting, like I don't try to be like judgmental or anything like that, but to your point, it is kind of like, man, if people knew like kind of how hard it is to make this stuff happen, and see it through and maintain the relationships of all the people required to make it happen. And it's like a miracle that any of this stuff happens in this day and age. There's hardly any money in it. It's like,
yeah, ain't that the truth?
Yeah. And so, and that is what's great about our scene, kind of the renaissance of our scene, whether it be punk, hardcore, emo, all that kind of stuff. It really does seem like, it's for the joy of it. I mean, there's some things that are kind of like cash grabby and weird, but for the most part, it's like, it seems like a pretty earnest thing that's just like, hey, like this was a huge part of my identity. This is how I relate to the world. This is what makes me feel strong or what makes me feel connected, or and people want that, and certainly the bands that are participating in it, none of them are getting rich either. It's just like, hey, we're all still living in this world, and shit's crazy, and this is a way to kind of cope with it, and we need it, and I'm just like so happy that it's still an option, like I said, I didn't think when I was this age, I was like, I guess I'll probably, if I'm still playing drums, I'll probably like have to learn how to play jazz or something a little more age appropriate, and now I'm playing like actually like harder and faster than I ever have, and which is awesome because it's an excuse to keep my shit together and try to stay young. I mean, the title of the Rad Owl record is actually kind of like a play on like a few different things, but instead of age gracefully, obviously rage gracefully, and kind of like, I joke to those guys. I'm like, in order to play some of these songs, like I have to like work out now. I have to, take care of my body and stuff. So it's been a good excuse to, it's good to have motivation to do that. Otherwise I don't know if I'm not the type of person that would probably just work out for working out's sake, but it's just like, hey, I want to play drums, to the best of my ability for as long as I can. I better put some work in, and so that's been good.
Nice.
Side effect.
Well, I'm gonna ask another hard question here. We're gonna wrap up here in a couple minutes. You and I could sit here all night and talk, which I'm sure we might after we stop record, or we'll get to do this again at some point. But you got 5 minutes left to live. Meteors crashing into the earth. You have to listen to one song and one song only. What are you listening to?
Oh God, dude. Oh no.
First song that popped in your head.
See, this is like I'm the type of, this is another personality trait, and if you ask any of my friends or anyone who knows me, it's like I am like an indecisive. Like I stress out about what to order for lunch. When people are like, I mean, I could easily give you like 100 songs.
What's the first one that popped in your head? And it doesn't have to be the perfect one, but the first song that pops in your head.
Oh my God. I can't, I mean, literally I'm thinking of like, okay, what are my favorite bands or favorite records? And, I mean, I don't know, like probably, oh Jesus. It's gotta be something really good. I mean, so my two favorite drummers in the world are probably Bill Stevenson from Descendants and all, and then Neil Peart from Rush. And I love those bands so much because they're kind of like universes unto themselves. Their output, their catalogs are just it's like it's crazy. And I just love that they're kind of drummer led bands. The drummers wrote songs and lyrics, and those guys have these philosophies on life that are kind of very positive. It's like very like go out and kind of be the best version of yourself you can be. Like what's the best thing you can do today? Like like Descendants, I'll say like, go for all. Like this concept of all is like to just do everything, do as much as you can with your life, and with music and all those things. And Neil Peart has kind of a similar thing. Like those are like my two favorite bands. I just don't know which. I mean, I could tell you 100 songs of each band. I mean, I'll just something simple. It'd have to be like something joyous, right? So my favorite Rush song is probably like Spirit of Radio.
All right.
And that's a pretty joyous song. It's basically like celebrating music,
It's a good thing to go out to.
It's about driving. It's about driving and listening to music, which is one of my favorite things to do, just kind of zoning out on a long road trip, listening to music, and different styles of music and just how it makes you feel, kind of like what we've been talking about, like the power of music to kind of unite people and kind of give you the strength to like go out and like face the day, like that's kind of what that song is about, is like getting in your car in the morning and turning on the radio and being stoked about what you're hearing, which is kind of like a bygone era now, but, I mean, that's just a song that, I don't know. I think you have to be a pretty lame human being to not get stoked on that song. It's just such a, I mean, musically it's friggin' challenging and crazy, but it's still catchy, and anthemic and kind of like an FM hit, you know. So, but I mean, dude, we could sit here for days, and I would tell you why. You know, every song I could think of is worthy of being the last song you'd ever want to hear. You know, trying to think about that. I mean, other things that pop in my head, like Sugar, Copper Blues, one of my favorite albums of all time. You know, like Hoover Dam or like something like that. You know, Surrender by Cheap Trick, or like Clean Sheets by Descendants, or I mean, God, just I don't know.
Yeah, I have mine as a file on my phone immediately, so I never have to search for it. I just hit it.
I love September Girls by Big Star. You mentioned Big Star earlier. I mean, that's like, I mean, God. I mean, there are certain songs that when the first note hits, I just feel like there's a chemical reaction that happens in my brain or my heart or whatever. That special thing that when music that you truly love and speaks to you, you know, it's like when you're walking through a crowd and you smell like like someone's perfume of a girl that you like kissed in high school, or like you smell like a certain food or something that's nostalgic to your childhood, or like, you know, something that just takes you to a place like a formative place. You know, so many songs like that, you know. First song on do you like Teenage Fan Club?
I love Teenage Fan Club until the last two albums.
Until the last two albums?
Yeah.
Right?
And
because of
we saw them. Yeah, we saw him recently, and I looked at my dear friend, and him and I have seen like every Teenage Fan Club. I mean, can't even count how many times I've seen him. And I looked at him, I go, I think we just saw Teenage Fan Club for the last time.
Yeah.
And he goes, well, they'll probably still make more music. I looked at him, I go, we just saw them for the last time. Like,
I respect that. I totally get it. And like, I still kind of like what they're doing. For what it is.
Yeah, I get it. And I'm just like, that's, as sometimes you can say with a band, that's not my Teenage Fan Club.
Right. Exactly.
You know, it's not 13. It's not Bandwagon-esque. It's not Grand Prix. Or Songs from Northern Britain. Like, that's not my Teenage Fan Club.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. This is awesome. So yeah, what I was going to say is I mean, I fell in love with Teenage Fan Club when I was really young, when Bandwagon-esque came out, you know, because it was kind of like on 120 minutes and all that stuff. And I feel like, you know, this is what I'm getting at, what I was getting at earlier about how nuts it is being kids when we were being informed by what was on the radio and on MTV and stuff. And, you know, I'm going from like Metallica to hip hop to, you know, Nirvana. And then it's like, you know, my kind of intro to power pop or anything that kind of came from the Big Star tree would be Bandwagon-esque and like Matthew Sweet, probably Girlfriend.
Yeah. Girlfriend, 100 Fun.
Yeah, like those records, like those were 1990.
Altered Beast. Yeah, those like three.
Just massively big for me at that time. You know, I always loved melodic sing-song kind of harmonies and melodies, and like I've always been drawn to like aggression and, you know, the things that metal and hardcore and punk rock provide, but which is why I love Descendants so much, because it's got the power and the speed and the complexity of all that stuff, but at its core, it's these melodies and relatable.
And I think that's why I've had conversations recently. I think I just talked about it recently on a show too. That's why, like, I love the Descendants, but I'm an all guy.
Oh my God.
You know, and it's like, I think it's because of, you know, listen, Milo doesn't have the greatest vocals, but you know, then you basically get the best of the Descendants, but with Roy Smalley or Scott Reynolds or Chad Price, everybody who can sing with these beautiful melodic tones. It's like, that's where I'm at.
Oh, totally. I mean, I'm right there with you. I mean, I love Descendants. That was my gateway, but I mean, really, like when I heard, you know, All Right for Prez and Always Revenge are my two favorite. Like if I had to, you know, like that's like the pinnacle of like, for me, like what, I mean, those guys were at just the top of their game, musicianship wise, and playing with so much power and stuff. And you know, Scott Reynolds, like such a vocal range, like on Always Revenge, just like those songs are just unreal. You know, on a musicianship level, if you're a musician, you can sit there and just be like, oh my God, what are these guys doing? And if you're just, if you just like good songs and want to feel something because of the vocal and the lyric and everything, it's got that too. And then of course I love Dave Smalley. I just love everything Dave Smalley's done, like the positivity and just the how much his voice gets me stoked, you know,
Yeah.
and all that stuff. I love it. You actually said, I don't know if you caught this. You said
I said Roy Smalley. Yeah, I just called. I was like, I said Roy Smalley, a fucking baseball player. He played for the Twins at one point, right?
Twins, dude. Like
Yeah.
that was a big deal for me when I was a kid. I mean, Twins was huge for me. You know,
That's why it's so funny. I was like, that was a total Freudian slip, and the fact that you're from Minnesota, like, and I said Roy Smalley instead of Dave Smalley, like, fucking hysterical.
That is incredible. I mean, that's one of the first Twins that I knew about. You know, in 1985 or so, like him and Kirby Puckett and Ken Herbeck. That's amazing, dude. I love it. But so that is incredible because I'm right there with you with all, and you said all the same, you know, all the stuff about Teenage Fan Club too. Like so I keep telling these eternal stories. I'm so sorry, but like, so I kind of forgot about, you know, I quickly moved on to other things after Bandwagon-esque, and I kind of lost the plot with Teenage Fan Club for a while, for a long while, really. And I want to say it was like 2009. It was kind of that period I was telling you about where I was like post Gratitude, and you know, I haven't had too many of these periods in my life, but like I was just really down. Like I was just lost, you know. Like I told you, like I had to really, it sounds like melodramatic, but like I had to be like, you know, I'm not going to be a drummer, you know. And I tried, and I got a little taste of it, which is more than anyone, you know, is that I know really had the chance to do. So I should be grateful. But it was still just like, it was like this, like kind of like death of your inner child, you know? And then on top of that, I had all these other things going on. Like I had a first time I really had like my heart broken around that same time as well. Which was kind of tied into the fact that I didn't really want to give up music and get serious about life and, you know, settling down and things like that. And then, you know, this is a little, maybe a little much, but I bring it up just because of what we kind of mentioned, what you mentioned to me, what you shared with me earlier on, you know, before you hit record. But I had an uncle who I absolutely loved and looked up to, you know, just with all my heart. He was like my favorite uncle. He was a artist, visual artist, and he rode motorcycles and traveled and was just like a hero to me. He took his own life at that time, and I was just like really, that really like broke our family, and was just like a really dark time. And it was really, just like I said, I'm just really lost. And for some reason, I kind of just rediscovered Teenage Fan Club at that time. And I was kind of playing in a band that was a little kind of power poppy, I guess. And we kind of, someone in the band had mentioned referencing some Teenage Fan Club type stuff in what he was bringing to the band. And I kind of like, I was like, oh yeah, I used to love that band. Why don't I listen to that band anymore? And I kind of like went back through their cat. I was like, oh shit, they released all these records, you know, like where have I been, you know? And, yeah, I mean, so songs from Northern Britain, like just came into my orbit. And I think from 2009 until today, that's, if you only took those years, that's probably the record, like far and away I've listened to more in my life than anything else. And like I was saying before, like there's certain songs that when they come on, like your soul is just like stirred, you know. And it's just like, you know, the first two songs on that record, I think, are like the best first two songs on like any record. Like it's just two perfect songs. And the first song that Start Again kind of just begins with these like chords, you know, and it's just instantly like I just hear it and I'm just like, oh my God, you know. And that song's kind of about like a breakup. It's kind of about like, you know, he's trying to like reach a girl that's, it might be too late and stuff. And he's trying to tell her that, there's time to start again and stuff. And I was really feeling that at the time, and just like really spoke to me, and also I should say Grand Prix at that time too. I discovered that one, and those two records really kind of like hand in hand.
Yeah.
But
Grand Prix is just like banger after banger.
Totally. And that one's a little happier overall.
Yeah.
It's just pure bliss, around that time I sort of got into, I was like, well, I'm going to quit playing drums. I'm going to quit touring. I got to do something else, and kind of in a way to honor my uncle. And also I was a huge fan of Neil Peart and Rush and stuff. And he had written a book about his wife and daughter passing away. And he got really into motorcycling and just taking these long solo motorcycle trips and all around the world, really. And I kind of endeavored to get into that activity I was like, well, this is how I'm going to travel and see the world now, because I'm not going to be doing it with a band anymore, And so I kind of started riding motorcycle around that time. And like my favorite thing in the world to do was to just ride around the country and listen to Teenage Fan Club. There's something about that sound, that breezy kind of sound, that it would just put my soul at ease, and the motion, like the movement of riding, and just kind of like that feeling of, it's kind of like when you're drumming too, like you're kind of focused on what's happening, but you're also like soft focused, and you're just kind of like in this like Zen like kind of headspace, and you're thinking about like anything and everything, or maybe nothing at all. And something about the combination of just like on a nice sunny day and just cruising and listening to that music, it was so profound for me at the time. Like it just, I hesitate to say it like saved my life or anything like that, but it came to me at a time when I just needed something. And like, so that stuff is like so sacred to me. I almost said like a song off that record. If you're like, if I get one song, like someone say, oh my God, I gotta hear that again, and there's just something that, I don't know if it's like a Scottish thing, like bands from Scotland, like there's just like something that's so earnest about their music.
Yeah. I have a huge affinity, like any band, if they say if it's from Scotland, I'm going to listen to it because I'm guaranteed to love it.
Yeah.
And it's so weird that like the smallest fucking place in the world has given me probably, if I had to have 50 bands in my life, I'd venture to say 21 of them are from fucking Scotland.
Yes, totally, dude. It's they can do this thing that's like, and of course this is like completely the blanket statement, but like, just that combination of like, there's kind of like, there's an inherent like sadness to the music, but also like hopefulness and beauty and like, and they can sing things that like, I don't know. I feel like an American band, I'd be kind of like, oh, come on.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, like that's a little laying it on a little thick, or that's a little too straightforward for my taste. American bands tend to be, so much of the stuff I was raised on is more based on like, I don't know, like irony or like, just, cynicism, right? Like,
yeah.
And their stuff is just this hard on sleeve, like, and I don't know, it just made me like feel all this stuff would just kind of come up, I'm a Midwestern Scandinavian kid. It's like we're kind of programmed to push everything down and not really deal with it. And I don't know, certain things kind of like activate feelings, and you're just like, oh man, there's particularly, there's a song, I don't know if you ever heard the B-sides off songs from Northern Britain.
I have the doubles. They came out with a double CD. Well, it was Japan. It was a Japanese issue, but it was like a double CD of songs from Northern Britain. It had like all this crazy stuff that I'd never heard before.
Oh yeah. There's a B-side that when I was going down the rabbit hole, where I was just like, oh my God, I got to get more of this or whatever. There's a song called Broken. It's just this like really simple, it's just basically one chord progression over and over again, and just one lyric kind of over and over again. And it's just everything that I was just talking about though, where it's so unbelievably sad, but somehow manages to be like joyful and hopeful at the same time. And like, I can't even explain it, but like every time that song comes on, like I just cry like a baby. Like I can't even, because I remember like the first time I heard it and I was just so like, oh my God, like this is for me right now. You know, it just was one of those, like, it was like speaking to me or whatever. And, I almost had the, and they played. So in 2018, right before Jerry left the band, you know, the bass player who wrote arguably so many of their best songs, you know,
Yeah.
They did these kind of farewell shows in the UK, and my girlfriend at the time, also a huge Teenage Fan Club fan. And this is right about when I was about to go on tour with Justin Pierre from Motion City Soundtrack. I made a record with him, and he booked like a 6-week US tour, and I was between jobs. So I said I could do it and stuff. And it's like all these Teenage Fan Club shows got announced like right at the same time. And I was just like, God damn, like I really love to, you know, wish I could have seen. Oh, and they were going to do these like 3-night stands in various cities in the UK and play all of their Creation Records releases, like start to finish, with everyone who actually played on those records, because they've had different drummers and stuff throughout the years. And then that was going to be, you know, the last thing they did with Jerry Love. And I was like, damn it, you know, like how amazing would that be? Like getting to see like songs from Northern Britain and stuff. And my girlfriend at the time, she like surprised me. She like kind of went behind my back and asked Justin if I could show up. Like the first show was gonna be like in Chicago or something like that. And like, she was like, these shows really would mean a lot to David. And, you know, we could, if we went to see him in Glasgow in Scotland, we could see the first 2 nights of a 3-night stand, and then we'd take like an overnight flight and make it to Chicago to be able to play this first show of this tour. And I wouldn't have asked to do that. I was just like, well, we can't do that. You know, that's gotten that too close. That's ridiculous. Because those were shows where people were actually going to show up, and
yeah,
you know, and I kind of had to be there. You know, I was being paid and everything, and she like worked it out with him, and he was a big fan too. You know, so he's like, oh yeah, you should totally do that. You know. And so she surprised me, and we went out and got to see the first 2 nights. So we saw Bandwagon-esque, and 13 was the first night. And then the second night was Grand Prix and Songs from Northern Britain. Just
yeah, that's fucking awesome.
Start to finish, you know, just a little break in between. And not only that, but it was at the Barrowlands in Glasgow, which is the first place I ever played outside of North America with Gratitude. When I was, you know, 25 or whatever, 26. And
it's fucking full circle again, but
this historic old, like hundreds and hundreds of years old Scottish venue that's just seen so many, you know, incredible shows over the years. And here was like these, and you know, these hometown shows for those guys, playing like their best work in its entirety. And also kind of these send-off shows for Jerry Love, which was like super emotional unto itself. And just those songs being so emotional for me, I was just like, you know, by the time I got to Songs from Northern Britain, I was just like losing it kind of, you know, it was so special. I could not believe how, you know, how fortunate I was to be there at that moment. But so all this to say, we missed the last night of the 3-night stand. We had tickets for the whole thing, but we couldn't stay for the third night. And they did their last record from Creation, which was Howdy, and then they did all the B-sides as their second set. And I believe the last thing they played was that Broken song. And I was like, oh my God, it would have been incredible to see that. I've seen video of it, like people posted videos of it, and it is just incredible. Like you can hear a pin drop when because it starts just like a whisper, you know, it's just and it just builds into this thing, and it's hard to describe because it's not much of a song really. It's just almost like a little mantra, like a it's just like this, like a feeling or whatever. And even watching those live videos, I just get this. I'm just like, oh my God, if I had been there, I probably would have just like spontaneously combusted or something. You know,
Yeah.
like,
Well, look at you got the goods, man. You got
yeah.
4 awesome albums in 2 days before you went to go get paid for doing something you love. So, I mean,
Yeah,
I think it all worked out.
yeah, but it's cool to be able to talk to someone who like kind of understands what that might mean, because
Oh yeah.
it's like a lot of people are surprised when I'm like, yeah, they're like one of my favorite bands and they mean so much to me, and like they're like, well, but I think people think I am only into like drum forward aggressive music or something, and it's weird how certain things just kind of find you, you know, and
Yeah, music finds you. You don't find it. That's I'm a firm believer in that. You know, like it really does. Like when it comes to things like that, especially in the era that we grew up in, we had to like find our stuff. Like we had to work at it.
yes,
You know, and we had to put in sweat equity, and we had to unfortunately spend money on things that turned out not to be so great. But we had to force ourselves to continue to listen to it until it showed some semblance of, oh, okay, I like this. And you know, I lament about this a lot, but like in the day and age that we're in now, people just, I don't like it, and they skip past it and they go to something else. Meanwhile, we were forced. Like I think there's some bands that I never would have gave a second shot if I was able to hear like how you hear it today, where you're like 10 seconds in, you're like, no, I don't like this, and you go right past it. But if you bought something, you had to fucking learn to like it.
definitely, 100%. I mean, for me, whenever anyone says that exact thing, I think of Sunny Day Real Estate Diary. I bought that full price on the strength of like I loved the Seven video on MTV, and I loved that song. It was like high energy and crazy drumming, and I mean, shit, that's another song that I put up there for a last song on earth kind of a thing. I mean, I still think that's just such a transcendent song, but I remember like being so disappointed that the rest of the record didn't sound like that. Like I was like, well, it's kind of like it's really sad and just slow and not aggressive, and like I just didn't get it at all. And then I was like, well, I fucking paid, whatever it was at the time, 15, $16 for this thing. I better listen to it more than once. I better listen to it a few times. And it's just like, that beautiful thing that happens when you invest in something and let it kind of grow on you, and all of a sudden it kind of clicks, like there's something there should be like there's probably a word like in German for it or something, but you know what I mean? Like that thing, like where all of a sudden you get it, and something speaks to you, in a sense that, you just didn't, it wasn't there before, and then all of a sudden it's there, and
Yeah.
and you're like, oh God. And it just means so much more when you take the time to get it, I guess. I don't know. Is that what
No, listen, I totally understand it, because I'm I explain it to people all the time. Like if I'm really going to try to get into something, I listen to the album 5 times, 5 different ways. And it's the 5 ways that I listen to music. It's driving in the car, mowing the lawn with earbuds in, having it on in the background while you have people around,
yeah.
sitting down with a book in my little basement studio and putting the record on and listening to it and letting it catch me. And the last time is blasting it as loud as I can in the store. Or prior to that, it was wherever I was, I would just blast it really loud if I'm outside in the garage or whatever. And 5 times, 5 different ways. And if it doesn't hit me by then I'm definitely out. So like I always give it a chance.
Yeah.
Like I'm like, that there has to be some redeeming factor to it, but like I know when it hits me. I know the moment it hits me, I'm like, oh fuck, there it is.
Yeah.
All right, this is awesome. I'm into this now.
That's awesome. And especially when you get to play in the store, like, this little independent record store that I referenced where I first got my first like punk stuff, and it's kind of like where I learned about all this stuff. I ended up working there, right out of high school for a couple of years. And like, it was always such a joy when it was your turn to like pick something to play. And then someone who was just shopping would just be like, what is this? And then they would buy it, and you'd just be like, wow.
Listen, I wish I had copies of Rad Owl, because I was playing the album in the store and the kid's there looking at CDs or whatever. And he's like, dude, what is this? I was like, oh, it's called Rad Owl. He's like, dude, this is fucking awesome. He's like, do you have this? I was like, well, I have it right here in my hand and it's not for sale because I want it.
Oh man. Well, it sounds like I gotta mail you some stuff.
Yeah.
I need to mail you that and some Dead History stuff. And
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, dude, thank you so much for. Well, I mean, once again, just means the world that. And it means extra that I guess I assume that yeah, maybe you just would have. I guess I didn't know how you would have come across that, but it's really cool that that it just kind of found you, I guess, and that
Yeah. Like I just said, music finds you.
your question for you, like, what did you think when you saw the album cover? Did you? I mean, what did you think the band would sound like? Because
I thought it was going to be like a metal album.
yeah,
Like that's what it looked like. I was like, all right, this is probably going to be metal, and then it comes in, and I'm like, oh,
yeah,
all right.
yeah.
And then
It's
I was like, okay, yeah, like it definitely has that metal vibe of like you're not really sure what this is going to be, and then it's just like, oh, wow, I like this.
yeah,
Like judging that book by its cover and it being completely different.
yeah. It's funny. Our bass player's younger brother is like a great artist, and he like, does art for like like Dungeons and Dragons and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And just kind of fantasy type stuff. And so we were kind of just like, it kind of began as a joke. Again, the first record, we didn't really think anyone was going to give a shit. So we're just like, let's just make this as audacious as possible and get this cool, like, fantastical art going and stuff like that. And then we kind of were like, well, this might be detrimental to people, or people might buy this and get pissed that it's not like super heavy or like,
Yeah, they're expecting a murder mystery and they get a love novel.
yeah. But I mean, there's a few melodic or metallic elements in there, hopefully,
Yeah.
I guess. But yeah, no, that's awesome, man. We'll definitely get some stuff out your way, and then hopefully, one of these days we'll I do hope that we can play out that way, and
Me too.
maybe we can figure out a way to play in your store or
Whenever you want, man. You just say it. It's yours. That's how it works. I built the stage because I want people there, and whenever they want to use it, they can use it. Like, come on out, fucking let's get some new fans. Like that's the way I look at it.
Oh, it's killer, man. And then I have one more question for you. So do you remember? Did you see Gratitude at all?
I never got to see Gratitude at all.
Okay.
Nope.
Damn.
Yeah, that was one that passed me by, and it's awesome. Like this like when Jonah was here, and I get to I sing the opening lines because my wife just was a huge fan of Gratitude, and I'm just like, if you ever see her, like I'm like, how that fucking comes in, I'm like, dude, that's so goddamn awesome.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it was and it was a short like lived thing, so it was like at that time there was no way I had an opportunity to see it, but I was just like, man, it's so fucking good.
Yeah, it's I just while we were talking and I was talking about that band and how we have these good shows in the UK, I since then I was just thinking about where you are on the map and stuff, and like, man, Gratitude, we always had I have great memories of playing, especially I think we got to play CBGB's once, which was incredible. Like for CMJ, we got to play Irving Plaza with Minus the Bear. We got to play Webster Hall with Jimmy Eat World. I mean, I just can't believe I got to play these places in Manhattan. Just like the kind of shit you dream of.
Yeah.
But certainly high up there for most memorable shows. And now I'm just so scatterbrained at the moment. What was the iconic venue across the river in New Jersey? Maxwell's.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah, we played there a few times, and that was always just like,
yeah, Maxwell's. I saw some of the greatest bands of all time getting to see them at Maxwell's, and like thinking about all the amazing experiences and bands I got to see at Maxwell's, and when they sold it and somebody redid the entire back room and essentially fucked it up, as I said, they completely ruined everything, and then it died a slow death. But it was the premier place. Like I think it was 125 cap.
Yeah.
And if I run down the list of bands that I saw there, people are like, there's no fucking way. I'm like, look it up. I go, I can't even tell you the date I was there. Like, I'm like, yeah, I saw Smashing Pumpkins there.
Mm.
I saw the bands of the bands at that fucking place. I'm like, and like you hear bands like Dinosaur Jr., who are the loudest playing band of all time.
Oh
They
yeah.
play the loudest out of anybody. I'm like, I walked out of there and I thought I was deaf for 7 days.
Oh,
I'm like, seeing them in that small fucking confined fucking room where there's nowhere to go.
yeah.
And it's like seeing bands like that in those venues and seeing bands in small venues, like it's just some of the greatest times of my life.
I just remember being so unbelievably packed in that place, and like it must have been summertime or something. I remember one time we played there and it was so hot, and people
Yeah.
were. It was literally, it was like one of the few times I remember playing in America that kind of compared to like a UK club show, because those UK club shows were always like just my clothes would just be ruined because you'd be so
Yeah.
soaked with sweat, and just like nothing was air conditioned, and they'd be packed and people would be losing their minds. And
And the tiniest stage, your back was against the wall. If you're
yeah,
a drummer, your back's up against the wall. You like,
you know,
you can't move.
yeah. And I remember I have this like distinct memory of like not being able to, like, I can't remember how the backstage worked or if there was one.
Well, it was downstairs in the basement.
Yeah, but
Yeah, you would go downstairs in the basement. All the shit from the kitchen would be dripping on you down
yeah,
there.
yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
And then you come up from the basement, you go through the door, and then you got to go through the entire crowd to get to the stage.
Right. And I remember like, yeah, I remember being like, oh my God, I just need to get like, I think there was a way where you could get outside maybe somehow. Cause I remember like getting out and being in the back of the building.
Yeah, so there was a back door in the venue itself, or you could go out a set of stairs that would come from the basement that would come up outside the back door.
Yeah.
And it was, yeah.
And I just remember like being like so hot and just like, I need some air, and just like getting out, and then like getting out in the back of that building and just like looking out over like Manhattan.
Yeah.
Like, and just I had no idea that was what the view was going to be. And just like, and just being like, oh my God. Like,
Yeah, you just walk to the corner of the venue in the back and you're like, oh, look at that.
yeah. And just like, I'm from the friggin' cornfields, man. Like it was like, and I'd been to New York a few times, but just, I don't know, just something about seeing it from across the way there. And just, it was all lit up, just perfect, and just like, just played a great show. And it was just like, oh man, like that's a memory that every once in a while will just kind of float through my head, and you're just like,
Yeah.
well, that was cool. Like that's I was lucky to get to do that, and so I was hoping that maybe you would have been at one of those shows. But
Yeah, no, I wish I was. Trust me, I wish I was.
well, there is like some very loose talk about maybe trying to do something again down the line. If
Let's do it. I'll nudge.
So.
Listen. What time is it in Oregon right now? I'll nudge.
There was a thing. It almost happened this summer,
yeah.
But schedules couldn't line up. So it's there's a possibility that.
Well, let's get it done. And I'm hoping that the schedules didn't come together because Jonah opened my store for me. So
No, it wasn't that. Yeah, it wasn't that.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't that. It's unfortunately we're all in like a jillion friggin' bands now. It's just kind of is what it is. But and we all live in different parts of the world, and so it'll take a minor miracle. But I do think at least like the desire is there. So
well, I hope you guys get it done. And why don't we've been here for a while now.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. This is
no, dude. Hey, listen, this
right now, I'm sure.
No, this is what it's all about, man. This is about conversation, building friendships through commonality, and like this is what it's all about, and getting people to know you and fall in love with you, and that's hopefully we did that in this which is a long time but a short period of time in the grand scheme of things in everyone's life. But I mean, before we move on to our final segment, I mean, I'm going to give you that huge heartfelt thank you, thank you so much for all the music you've been a part of and helped create. That has been a bright spot in my life, and it means the world to me to be able to talk to someone who's been a part of such influential things in my life, and very big points in my life, had a lot of help in getting me to the next day. So,
Oh, yeah.
a huge heartfelt thank you for that, David.
Man, and seriously, right back at you. Like I said, it made my day, made my week, made my year to just get these messages from people out of the blue, or it's just like, oh man, this does matter,
Yeah.
and it can just, like you said, just giving that thank you can kind of fuel someone for quite a while, so I don't take any of this stuff for granted. And I feel like the luckiest person in the world to be able to still be just doing what I'm doing for the love of it, and somehow miraculously reaching people in places, that I wouldn't expect. So,
Yeah. Well, I love that you are. So keep going, man. Keep going. But we're coming in. This is our weekly 3 segment. It is 3 things that you're listening to right now that you would like people to check out. So you have the opportunity. You give me your 3 things, and then I give you my 3 things for the week.
Oh boy. So just like
3 things you're listening to that you'd want people to check out.
That I'm listening to.
It can be old, it could be new. It doesn't matter what it is. It's just 3 things you've listened to recently that you're like, man, I forgot how good this was, or wow, I just found this. It's great.
Yeah.
Let's listen to it.
Dang. So, well, I'm just kind of looking back on stuff I've played recently. A lot of the time I'm listening to, at the moment, I'm actually been listening a bunch to the newest Dead History record, which is being mastered right now, because I'm the last one to sign off on the final master.
Yeah.
We finally got there.
I can't put that because no one can hear.
Exactly. I do want to send that to you as soon as I can, because that record is going to be killer. So I've been listening a lot to this band Skinny Lister, because
you're playing with them 3
or 4 days. I got to be playing 30 songs with them a night, and so I've been having to kind of really cram to learn all that stuff. But it's really great. They're awesome. From Bristol in the UK. I met them playing on a cruise ship a couple of years ago with John Snodgrass, and just became fast friends. And they're like the sweetest people. And it's a little more it's kind of like a Celtic-y inspired kind of folk rock, but really good energy, super positive. It's got that thing we're talking about, like Scottish music has, where it's just really like earnest and heartfelt. So yeah, I've been listening to a ton of that. Like my favorite record of last year was probably and I just listened to this the other day while I was working, the Mesthetics, which is, Brendan Canty and Joel Ali from Fugazi. It's instrumental music. The new record they made has a horn player on it named James Brandon Lewis. I have to admit, I'd never heard of them. I went to see them live a year ago, or a little over a year ago now, and just totally blew me away. Absolutely, of course, being the age that I am, I love Fugazi, and Brandon's a huge influence, and just someone I adore, and that rhythm section in general, just legendary. And it was crazy to see them play again, and this stuff really blew me away. Absolutely love that record. One more. I don't consume a whole ton of new music all the time these days. So I usually, there's like a record or 2 a year that I just really obsess about, or a band, like one band I discover a year, or something that I obsess about. In recent years, kind of related to the Teenage Fan Club thing. I love that band Always, if you've ever heard them, from Canada. They kind of have a Teenage Fan Club vibe, a little more shoegazy maybe. I think that she is just, I think her name's Molly Rankin. She is just a phenomenal songwriter. Absolutely love her voice and her lyrics. That she has lines that just rip my heart out. She does that thing that kind of Teenage Fan Club does, where it's just like, if you're kind of open to it and you look into it, you're just like, oh my God, like it, you can kind of put yourself in the story, and it's just heart-wrenching, but also beautiful. And they're phenomenal live, just killer guitar sounds. Love that band. And related, another band called the Beths that is from New Zealand.
I just saw them recently.
Did you see them?
Yeah, they played Way to Go Hall in Jersey City here.
Oh,
And it was fucking
fantastic.
amazing.
Fantastic. She's another one just like that song, um Expert in a Dying Field. I mean, that whole record is incredible. That song is like, just should be studied. You know, it's just
Yeah.
like, if you've ever been in a, if you ever had your heart broken, or, you know, been in a bad breakup or something, you know, where you're just like, oh my God, like some of those lines are just devastating, that she comes up with, and just the band is fantastic. And the music is like, they sing 4-part harmony live, you know,
Hmm.
just, they all sing like birds, and just what a great band. So yeah, that's
Nice. Nice. Good ones. All right. My three for this week. My first one, and I will preface this by saying I just purchased a huge lot of 70s and 80s glam rock / hair metal stuff.
killer.
And there was a record in there, a band that I never heard of. And I was like, oh, let me put this on, see what it sounds like. The name of the band is Heavy Pettin, Pettin.
With an
Um,
apostrophe at the end.
yeah, and the name of the album is Lettin' Loose. And it turns out I put it on. I was like, wow, I fucking love this. And then I start doing my research. They're from Glasgow.
Oh, killer.
Yeah. And I'm like, oh, this came out in 1982. It's like fucking definitely hair metal. I'm like, this is fucking fantastic. And then I'm like, oh, from Scotland. Makes sense. No wonder why I love it.
Does he sing with an accent? Does he have the?
No, it's honestly, it came out like right before hair metal started taking off, right? Like it came out in the era like where Hanoi Rocks is like coming up, and then everybody stole stuff from them.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you can hear like listening to the songs, like, oh yeah, that's a Motley Crue riff. But if I look at when this album was made and when
Oh yeah.
I'm like, oh yeah, they stole that
Oh
from
yeah.
them, just like they stole fucking Michael Monroe's look from Hanoi Rocks. Like I'm like, there you go.
And like Metallica stole from British New Wave of
Yeah.
metal, and yeah. Oh,
But yeah, heavy Pettin's number one. That's
Yeah.
number one. Number two is a band called The Arrival Note.
Hmm.
They are, let me see. If you like this, you'll like this. I would say The Arrival Note's kind of sounding. They're from Tampa, Florida. They're kind of newish band. Sound like Texas Is the Reason, Chrissy Front Drive, As Friends Rust, that type of sound. So
Soul. Soul.
And last but not least, is a band called Mentah, Mentah. There's an album called Empty. And they are, if you like them, you will, if you like Karate or Built to Spill or Prawn, you probably like Mentah.
That's a bizarre pairing. Is it Built to Spill and Prong?
Prawn, not prong.
Oh,
Prawn. Yeah.
Oh.
Prawn. Yeah, sorry. The Jersey accent came out.
No,
so
it's all right. Oh man,
but
awesome.
but yeah.
I love Built to Spill 100%.
Yeah.
I don't know Prawn. Is that a?
So they were like out of Philly. They were a emo-ish type of band. I don't know if they're still together or not. It was probably mid-aughts that they were putting stuff out. I think I have like 2 of their albums and they're just fucking awesome. So it's another band you should probably check out. Prawn, Prawn.
Not John, which is
No.
a Philly made-up word, right? Like
yeah, no.
Super duper quick. Are you a Texas Is the Reason fan?
Huge fan.
Okay. So this is the weirdest shit ever, but just randomly a couple weeks ago, a buddy of mine from Portland calls me. He's like, "Hey, I'm coming to Minneapolis to make a record. We should hang out or whatever." And this he's in some great bands out in Portland. Last Giant, he was in a band called System and Station. Kind of like me, like bands that they're not really well known. They're not household names, but we're out here fighting the good fight and stuff. And I'm like, cool, that's great. Let me know when you get here or whatever. And I show up to this session where he's playing, and it's 2 guys from Sensefield, the band Sensefield.
Yeah.
Scott McPherson, the drummer, who's a monster drummer and someone who I saw just a shit ton when I was a kid and absolutely love and adore. He actually lives in Minneapolis now. And then Chris from Sensefield, guitar player, had written all this music. And then Scott from Texas Is the Reason on bass. they're all just in the room making this music. And I was just like, dude, you didn't tell me this was like a super group that you joined or whatever. And he's like, oh, I didn't know you knew these guys. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, so I hung out with them like all week. And so they have a band called Famer. They have an Instagram handle and everything like that. No music out yet because they're still recording it, but it's fucking awesome.
Wow.
If you were a fan of any of that stuff.
Yeah. Now I'm excited. I love having something to look forward to.
So that's down the line in ways, but that just came out of nowhere. Literally a couple days ago or a couple weeks ago, they were making a record here. So
that's awesome.
Look for that.
I will. But, David, thank you again for being here. Thanks so much for spending some time with us, sharing your stories. I can't wait to hear more of them, which I'm sure I will. I don't think you and I are going to lose touch in any way.
So, hell no. Yeah.
No. Just want to say thanks again for everything you've done, and for spending some time with me and giving me lots to love in the world. So thank you again.
Thank you, dude. I really appreciate it. And, if you have to edit this thing copiously, I totally understand. Cause
I'm just going to knock out about an hour. Yeah. I'm going to knock out about an hour and 45 minutes of it, but we're good. That's what we do. No. But, no, man, it's been a pleasure. I've had a great time tonight. And so, last but not least, for everybody out in the world, you know what time it is now. It's time to go out, listen to Rad Owl, and have a great fucking time.
To you to have a clever plan, things
Thanks again for tuning into the Hidden Tracks podcast. We hope you enjoyed this week's show. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram at HiddenTracks99. Also, send all your submissions myhiddentracks99@gmail.com. Tune in next week. You may find your new favorite band, and don't forget to go out and have a great fucking time.